June the 28th, 2019. Guys, you're looking at National Hurricane Center map, or excuse me, infrared image of the Atlantic Basin. And it says the National Hurricane Center is monitoring 3 tropical waves in the Atlantic Basin. A wave in the East Atlantic is being affected by dry Saharan air. Guys, and that is this section. As this storm was coming off the coast late yesterday evening into last night, was very powerful. One of the most powerful and highest cloud tops at that time on the entire planet. But it's getting into that dust, and we're coming into the end of the first month, and you've got these oscillations in the system to where you'll go for a month and maybe not have a lot of tropical activity, but you're starting to realize these oscillation patterns to where once they change, then you're going to have 2 or 3 weeks of a lot of activity. When that changes, it slows back down, and that continues that pattern, sometimes up to 40 days in between the cycles throughout hurricane season. So that's what we've been seeing this month. I think that's about to change. Again, you got 3 systems they're watching. Now, this is an interesting image because it's a close-up of over Florida, and you can see this Saharan dust. It's even below Cuba through this area and along the southern tip of Florida, from there up into the Panhandle. Check that out, coming out of the Gulf of Mexico. So you notice how dry it is under that air. There's not much storms in that part of Florida. This is on June 25th, by the way, 3 days ago. But it's an excellent video of how far that sand reaches. And you can actually see it being caught up in this. What we're getting is a front moving from the north, guys. That's bringing this rain into the south right now. A little cooler temperatures, especially after the rains, but definitely different patterns setting up. But this, you can see it in one of the particulate maps of how intense this is coming off the Louisiana coast, actually. The reason on this image you don't see that is because the sun has not risen on this part of the planet as the time the photograph was taken. But it says, again, they're watching the one off Africa. Another wave in the central Atlantic could bring showers and thunderstorms to the Windward Islands today and tonight. A tropical wave in the Caribbean near the Dominican Republic also is being affected by dry Saharan sand. An isolated shower or 2 has been seen south of Hispaniola. They also had a lot of high winds in that area. Let's take a look at the big map. And this is what they're talking about. You got a couple things that have been happening for 2 days. You guys in the south, starting up around Memphis, Tennessee, these storms have exploded. Yesterday they came all the way down, and they got us just before dark yesterday. That's happening again today. Continued showers over the Mississippi River Valley. And notice in Florida, it's still dry in a lot of places there. But look at the difference in the clouds here coming off the coast of Africa. Again, I mentioned this before, guys, that when you have sand, or in this case, Saharan dust, mixing with water, the moisture is absorbed by the dust, and they both fall into the ocean. Call it wet sand or whatever you want to. And you can look at that in different particulates as far as the size of the particulates. But guys, that's what we're seeing. Again, the storm that right there, they're kind of watching it, is the northern part of it is entangled, if you look very closely, into the Saharan dust. Now, as the sun comes across this, it will highlight where that sand is, or the dust again, excuse me, and you can move it, see it move across here. I'd like to look at this, and we will take a look at the actual particulate maps to give you an idea of what we're dealing with. Now here, they're watching this area. This is where they're saying they got some storms and thunderstorms. Still dealing with some upper level wind shear. And we do have a system here moving off of Hispaniola that they were talking about. It's got some upper level wind shear. It's pretty close to land. May not have time to do any formation at all. And you've got systems here that could throw a lot of moisture over into the Caribbean itself. And just north of here, you've got Tropical Storm Alvin, up to about 65 miles an hour, but it's about to head into cooler water and start to dissipate. You also have another system behind it, but both are moving offshore and appear to be no threat to land, only probably some possible shipping interest in that area. same satellite infrared imaging. You can see where the storms are highlighted just simply because of the moisture content in the clouds. Again, these storms are forming off the coast of Africa. All it's going to take is enough moisture from one of the storms that you see now to absorb enough of the cloud cover, and you get a wind change off the Saharan coast to where they have enough strength, or they have enough moisture, and warm water to strengthen. All of this area is very warm, especially in the Gulf of Mexico. It's one reason they're having some problems along the coast. You got some dolphins and stuff and other sea life guys that are washing ashore. You have bacteria in the water because of the heat, the lack of oxygen, and the changes in the Gulf Stream. You also have a lot of things coming down out of these flooded rivers, and pesticides, insecticides from the large areas that are flooded. A lot of that had been fertilized before. Some of it they had tried to plant. But guys, all of that's in the soil. All of that is washed through the Mississippi River and all the other rivers along the Gulf Coast. So if you pay attention to from, say, Destin north and Panama City and that area up to Pensacola, someone almost died, guys, in Navarre. That's between Pensacola and Fort Walton Beach. A girl was just walking on the beach, had a cut on her foot, and extensive surgery in order to save her life. I'm not sure she's through it, this thing yet. So you've got to be careful of that, and we'll actually look at the model of the Gulf Stream itself. Now, this is a forecast of the Gulf of Mexico ocean currents we call the Gulf Stream. And notice that sometimes, guys, and I've noticed a change since the BP oil spill, but we've seen this current wrap all the way around the entire coast of the Gulf of Mexico and then come back out and head north into the Atlantic. But notice it's also almost isolated into just a rotation. If you look at this going up until July the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, right there, July 4th. It's almost cut off. And what's happening is, if you look very closely, that water's not getting circulated good. You don't have a lot of oxygen in it, and you have a lot of contaminants. So, again, be careful in this extremely warm water. Stay in your boat. Just enjoy it. Go out and stay on the beaches. Stay out of the water until they raise some of these alerts and we get a little more weather. A hurricane or a tropical system is actually good in the way that it will displace this. It will bring oxygen into the water and stir it up some, kind of oxidate it a little bit. And it's not that good when it hits the land, but it's good for the sea life and it's good for the ocean. It also takes a lot of heat out of the water as that heat rises into the top of these storms. But again, a very convoluted Gulf Stream at this point, and by July 4th, completely cut out of the rotation. What does that mean? Check this out. That means a fresh supply of water coming out of the Caribbean is cut off and will just move in this area around the tip of Cuba and then up in the north. So the conditions don't look good for the Gulf of Mexico yet. Again, some tropical weather may be a blessing. You may stop seeing some of these dolphins all along the entire northern Gulf wash up. Now, guys, we're watching this. You watch it. I've said this many times. We're approaching a new age in science simply because, not that we haven't had grand solar minimums before, but we've never had the technology via satellites and other things to actually get the information we need to really see what's going on. So, again, it's new territory as far as science. But we're watching it, guys. You watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.